There we go. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Paradigm Shifters. We are so grateful for this month of November 2022. We have come on such a beautiful long journey together. We started this platform in August of 2020 when things were falling apart. I know, and every Tuesday is Transformation Tuesday, where we bring in these beautiful light beings, guest speakers, to help us transform. So with that, we are, let's see, 1,500 strong from 56 countries, and our mission is we are a growing global community dedicated to shift and uplift the planet. Why not? So I'm so pleased that on this November topic of courage to change the things I can, I met Klein, and on a summit. I was speaking on a summit, and which Anne organized, and the summit was, "Are you worthy enough to love yourself?" And what a gift that was for me and so many. So I asked Anne to come in and give us some of your wisdom, experience, strength, and hope. So let me tell you a little bit about Anne, that you're a transformational life coach, and you live and serve on the premise that we are all master creators, here to learn, grow, and expand. I love that. And Anne coaches beings, high-level beings, to shift through challenges and resistance to a life of constant growth and high-level satisfaction. I love the word creation and freedom. So Anne is a joyful, lifelong creator and explorer. Now, this is something we've never had before, with a BS in art education from the University of Wisconsin and a master's of arts from Pennsylvania State University. You realize I grew up in Pennsylvania and I lived in Wisconsin before Texas.
Fantastic. Very synchronous.
Amen. And then let's see, you taught studio art courses at Pennsylvania State University for 2 years, and then high school and Wisconsin Dells for 17 years. That's incredible. And you're a member of the Institute of Coaching at Harvard University and founder of Spirit River Coaching. Spirit River, this, I know so many of my paradigm shifter buddies and my clients are going to just hone into this, what you are. Spirit River Environmental Spiritual Center. Yes.
I
And
just
then
got tingles when you said it.
yes. Well, that's one of my passion, and the people I coach is environmental spiritual centers. So I'm going to just turn this over to you, and you've got a topic I know you could speak forever on. So come on in here, Anne, and thank you so much for being here.
Judy, thank you for inviting me into your very sensing, feeling, expanding community. It's really a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to meet you further. So, and feel free to chime in if anything intriguing, anything you want to talk to me about or ask me about. So there's so many topics where I have chosen to do something about what I could, to the point where I just have a belief that you, we, me, I stand in total co-creative, collaborative power with all that's around me. So if anything's going on, it's me. It's me. What do I get to look into? What do I curiously get to investigate? What do I get to shift? And it's happening for me. So what's it there for? So yes, started out, I grew up in a family of 8 kids, and we camped a lot in the woods. My dad was an educator also. He taught math to tool and die apprentice in the trade industry. And so then we hightailed it into the woods for at least a month of summer, camping in a primitive pop-up, hanging out in the woods, cooking over the fire, swimming in Lake Michigan, being part of the power of those elements. And they didn't talk about church there, but I knew I was talking as a young child to that energy. I was talking to the lake. I was talking to the tree line. I was talking to trees. I was communicating. When I came, I said hello to those beings. And when I left, I said, I'll see you when I come back. And I felt sad. I was leaving those beings. And so my parents at some point said they feel like they were remiss in not taking us regularly to church. And I said, you put us in the lap of spirituality. They grew up and they were two different religions, and it caused a rift in their families. So they choose to not let love be a reason for spiritual separation. And they let all of us investigate in our own ways. And at one time, I felt like it was a detriment to me. Like, why didn't my parents go with me actively? And when I saw other families engaging in a church or a religious, regular activity, but we were in the woods every week, either at one side of the family's house or up in the woods camping. I definitely felt the spirit there, and it gave me that feeling where you're meditating, that feeling that we search for when we meditate. That's what I was given the understanding of and the feeling of as a young child. Just such a gift, such a powerful gift. As I got towards, I was always drawing. I was always doing art. I'm a studio artist. I've always been expressing myself through art and appreciating what was here for me through capturing it, drawing it, studying it, sharing it, giving gifts that I made of love with things I made. And a grandfather of mine was a professional baker. They baked for the last Kaiser, and their family came over here. And at 12, he went into an apprenticeship, a yeast bread apprenticeship for 3 years. And he ended up down the block from me by the time I was a girl. And he did the same thing. He served by creating with love through bakery, through food. And so I understood that was like a love language for me, serving through giving, through creating, through making. And as I got towards college, I had an older sister who was already a starving artist. She was already a metalsmith, just got out of grad school at Tyler, and she was pulling pennies together, like going through all pockets to get things to buy enough food. She never deterred from her course as an artist, and she's today in Delaware, a very professional metalsmith, does beautiful work. And so my parents, though, at the time saw her struggling, and I was good in school. I liked the sciences. I would have maybe gone into environmental science, and they didn't have those degrees at the time. So I was like set on ag engineering. So a brother of mine who was an engineer said to me, what are you doing? Why are you going into engineering? I said, well, I'm a good student, and it's really a good job right now. And mom and dad, I just feel that they want me to get it solid, something solid. So he said, self-deprecating, he's saying, I wasn't born with a gift like you. I'm good at math and science. I said, you're gifted, Vic. You're a gifted engineer. And he goes, but you have a true gift. I mean, he's the first one that I could cry right now thinking about it, actually. To have somebody who sees you like that. He gave me that permission. It's a good thing it's so important to tell people what you observe and see, so that maybe you can support them in a shift. So he supported me inadvertently in making a great change in my life, in stepping towards my art. So I changed my major. I went into art. Several years in, my mom is tapping me on the shoulder and saying, caring for me, loving me, but saying, what are you going to do with that? Have you thought about teaching? And she didn't say it in a derogatory way, because everybody always loves the artist, the creator, the musician, until they're ready to go get a degree or step out into the work world, and they're like, what are you going to do? How are you going to make money? How are you going to live? What are you going to do? And then they give you all their fear in a big bucket. Like, they give you a wheelbarrow of fear.
They give you the fear that they have in a bucket.
Yeah,
I love
they pass it
that.
along lovingly. They pass along, they don't realize it. The worst thing you could do is pass that along. The best thing you could do is say, I'm behind you. The cream always rises to the top.
Oh,
Go all the way in. And that's what I said to a lot of my students who ended up in the arts. And consequently, my two children went into the arts and they're very successfully having careers there. So yeah, I didn't pass that forward. So consequently, I did love, a part of me is very sociable.
yeah.
I do love sharing with people. I do love learning with people. Learning is the fountain of youth. I mean, every time you learn something, you get to realize how little you know and how young you are. So I pursued finding out the differences, and there wasn't a lot of difference between the two degrees, and I would end up with something in my hip pocket, and which actually got me an assistantship at Penn State because I had a teaching background. Ended up with an assistantship. So I went out of there constantly, though, in my mind, I was having to do something to give myself the opportunity to do my art. I was always having to prove something. Art was always going to be something I would have to have something else available to do it. I would have to always have something in front of it to support it.
Mm.
So that's the energy I carried into the field. Now, as I went in there, I started showing. I had a couple of children while they were napping. As soon as they went to bed, I was working till late in the morning, feeling super inspired. Started selling lots of artwork in a gallery. Really letting the flow go through while I was doing something I loved, which was being a mother. And as I was I was going towards a divorce with my husband, and I didn't know what I was going to do. My art just gave me enough money to keep the house, keep everything going. And I was knowing that I was in the right spot. I was following my instincts. And somebody said, "Hey, a teaching job just opened in the next community." And I applied for it. 70 applicants. There's a lot of artists around looking for something. And I walked in there with children under my belt and telling them I had the work and the credentials from my Penn State teaching experience. And I had the wherewithal of knowing that my understanding of structure that I got from having children, little children, would serve me in a classroom. And I also could tell them with assuredness I was ready to go all in on my career because my childbearing chapter was over. Even though it's none of their business, I said it anyway. And I got that job. I knew I was going to get that job. I got it. I enjoyed it for 17 years. And eventually my craving of expansion and exploration was starting to get pushed back. In education right now, I find it dismaying, but even when I was there, I find that there's such a rigid system for such a fluid process. And it started to become incompatible with me. When I got there, I was grading products. When I left there, I was assessing with love and support forward processes, thinking processes. So when I started, I was looking at like my drawing behind. I would look at the drawing. I would look at the what was required for that drawing, the technique, etc. By the time I was leaving, it was really hard for me to even grade because I was looking at the chronology of growth of the person through the project. And so I was seeing the project may have flopped, but the massive amount of growth, development, expansion happened on the project. And at the same time, I was proposing a class. I had gotten a grant, one of two grants, to go take students to the Smithsonian Museum of the American Indian and take my Native students and study their own artifacts from their elders, take three-dimensional photographs, and I worked that into a curriculum where we would canoe on the river, which is right around my retreat center. We'd take canoes, we'd go to a resort on the beach on the river that gave us permission. We'd dig for clay, bring the clay back. I had elders coming in who were basket makers and beaders, and it was a Native American art class. And the heads of our district wanted to know how I could justify teaching a class just to Native kids.
Oh.
That's what
Well,
I
I
knew.
just gonna put like, oh my, OMG. There's a person that I really, really want to have you meet who's
Yeah,
doing the same thing down here in
yeah,
Texas.
yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna make myself a note. There's
Yeah.
no mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. But and you
So
know how important when I was talking to her, she was like, it's so important for the children, and this was in music education. She was teaching the music of their culture.
yeah.
And all of a sudden they were so turned on, and their grandmothers and their moms were turned on because they were
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah.
Okay, keep
So
going. This is like
so I also was told, when are you going to stop changing things? And I said, I don't know, when I'm dead. That's so I had gone and I was the first teacher in my district to go and get the national board certification for master teachers. So I was the first master teacher. I wanted to show that someone in the arts had their act together. They could articulate, they could communicate across disciplines, and it was serious business, serious fun going on that engaged every aspect of the being. I could study any subject in my room. I could teach anybody else's subject in my room while also teaching my own subject, while also having each person plug into their authentic curiosity, whatever they wanted to do. And everybody could have a different answer and they could all be right. There's almost no other class at that level that can teach that confidence in creative, open-ended problem solving.
wow.
So at that moment, I had been teaching like a 15 years of Native American Awareness Week activities where I would have elders come in. So I knew when the superintendent said that I had a history of almost 3/4 of the school coming into my room during that week because they were fascinated. They wanted to learn. And the national board talks about integrating local culture, history, multiple subjects, disciplines, ways of teaching, everything. It was like the pinnacle of an educational project. And it was like right over the head of the district. So I knew it was time for me, probably, to leave. And I was starting to get interested in business. What if I could run a business? What if I could be a C-level executive at a business? I was starting to be curious about what else I might want to do. And along with that, some students were there was a student who he said something serious happened with his grandparents and himself, and it turned out to be not true. I followed it. He needed and wanted attention.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling sympathetic, and I knew that it was probably my time to go. I was losing my connection there with people not telling you the truth for whatever reason. He needed some support, but I was starting to lose my patience for it. So I had some.
I want to put a pause here because that is such an important internal thing to be listening to when you know that I know that you know this, you know that, oh, it's time to expand myself into a wider
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah.
So, way to go, way to listen. So, keep going. And I'm listening, everybody here, listen to this piece right
Riveting.
here.
It's
When
riveting.
you know that you know that
Right.
it's time to go.
Because what I'm talking about here is
Yeah.
loving your career,
Yes.
being dedicated to it. Four of my family members were teachers. They were married to teachers. My dad was a teacher. It was a respected career. And so to make a shift out of that, sometimes it can feel impossible. So I started to engage in outside things that were just fascinating to me. And I ended up deciding to take a group of kids to Paris. I wrote a grant. To make a long story short, the group of kids that I took, some things happened there. I was popped out of my job. I didn't know why things happened the way they did. I always thought that if I served with love, I would have a shield of protection. And yet I wasn't protected and things were in jeopardy. And I experienced depression for the first time in my life, crying 6 hours a day, not knowing why. Why is not a good question. Okay. So I navigated through there. I popped out of that job and started doing the things that I'd been curious about. When I think back, after I had that experience with that student where I wasn't as empathetic as I wished. I went out on a cliff at Spirit River. I put my arms up and I said, and I was having a relationship that wasn't good either. And I put my arms up and I said, can I have some change? And then because I was crying, and then I went, and eyes to see it, and ears to hear it. And an eagle came through. An eagle floated right through that corridor. And then rapid change began to happen. Rapid change. I left my job. I was going to be demoted to the grade school. I was having a terrible relationship. I ended that relationship. Some of my best friends passed away. I left the job. I relocated. I sold my home. I went into another place. I left that place. It got sold. I moved into another home. There was rapid fire change going on. I went to a Tony Robbins event where I heard you could walk on hot coals with your bare feet. I thought, geez, I know when I left my job, I thought, I am leaving in trust. I'm a talented, multidimensional being. And I know that something's coming. And the day that I decided to leave the job, I wasn't depressed. It stopped it. A decision. Decisions are like the antidepressant, the best antidepressant you could ever take.
Oh, I'm
Make
going to
the
write
decision.
that down.
Yeah.
Decisions are the antidepressant.
Yeah, they really are. They're the super holistic antidepressant. So I made the decision to stop floating around like a leaf in the breeze. And I made a decision to leave, and my confidence came back. I came back, and I began to start to function. And I navigated into a business where I was helping launch a tech platform. I started engaging in multiple businesses, really digging into my art career. I was shifting and moving. And in the Tony Robbins event, I did that to shock myself. Like I highly suggest when you go through a challenge that you do something like jump into a class, or jump into a retreat, or jump into ice cold water. Do something to completely shock and reboot you. How often do you upgrade your technology, your laptop, your phone? How long, for people listening, has it been since you actually did a deep dive on your operating system? Because I bet you that most of us are operating on the in vitro to age 7 operating system that you first created brilliantly as a small child, but now needs updates. As I went there into that venue with Tony Robbins, I went through a whole year of things, and I learned things. I went all the way back places, and I learned things that changed my history. People say you can't change the past, but you can. You can change your past by understanding new things about it. What I discovered back there was a subtle understanding that I carried for years, that I don't know if my dad loved me. I would say it if someone says, do your parents love you? Yes, of course my parents love me. But my dad was he was a service love guy, and he was meticulous. And I always thought what he was doing meticulously was just because he was meticulous. I didn't realize he was creating that for us. And I didn't see his love. And once I saw that a lot of the things I became came from there, I realized how much love was there. And all this love flooded into me. And I started to react differently in the world. I started to be different in the world. I started to bring a different version of myself wherever I went. So here I am now, with many stories in it. But here I am now, and I want to encourage people to follow their authentic being, their ideas. I have multiple businesses. This year, I've tripled my income. In the last 10 years after I left teaching, I made the same income I made as a teacher every year. I didn't realize it until this year. And then in my coaching program, the first year, excuse me, that I added clients, I made the same number income in the coaching. So I doubled, but it was the same number. Even a Packers jersey that my partner Mike bought me had the same number on it. What the heck? The universe is funny, really funny. So I have broken down financial paradigms, and I understand now that life and money is a bartering commodity, and giving and love, they flow through me, around me, generously. I don't have to cling to anything. I don't have to hang on to anything, a job, an idea, a thing. I don't have to hang on to anything. My definition of myself went from being a daughter, a mother, a teacher, an artist, an environmentalist, to being an ever expanding being who shares her gifts with others.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow. Whoa. Ah, wow. What a what a beautiful, beautiful being you are.
Thank you.
And I would love to ask you, what can we hold as a community of shifters for you for your next level? What would you love?
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
I'm
anything
working.
goes.
I'm in the midst. I'm in the
Yes, you
midst.
go. Go. What are you doing now? And what would you love us to have hold for you? And we'll put all your information in, underneath and all that other fun stuff. But what would you love, love, love us to hold? All yours.
First of all, what I'd love for you to feel is what I feel every day, that my next thing is the biggest thing I've ever done. The thing I'm working on now is always the biggest thing I've ever done, and everything prepared me for it. So I wish for you that feeling of engagement and effervescence, that that feeling of incredible lip smacking, tingling possibility. And what you can do for me, I just had dreamed for a dozen years of getting the property next to my retreat center so I would have lodging. And there's been a bar there that will become a 2 and 3D art studio. And so when people come to retreat, we're digging into clay, we're painting, whether you're an artist or not, doing creative processes, even cooking, releases ideas and things in the genre that you're in, that you love. So, and it's a pristine environmental area. I've been doing land stewardship, and I had some nonprofits, lots of tree planting, lots of education in schools. And I finally decided to buy that property. I didn't realize that was going to become, when I stepped on that property, I could feel it was important. I couldn't tell if I was in the future, feeling my future, the tingle of what already had been, and I was getting guided to it, or if I was sensing the purpose that was about to happen there. But that property, I've wanted the property next door for a long time. It goes out onto a cliff. The property next door then angles down, and you end up walking in an actual, and when I say Adele, I think of the singer, but I'm not talking about Adele. Okay, so the farmer and the Dells, Adele is a canyon or valley made by water running through rock. And this area is sandstone. It's the westernmost edge of the Niagara Escarpment. So Niagara Falls, and then come way over into Wisconsin, that escarpment of rock. And a glacier broke and created all these canyons in its Wisconsin dells, and a river runs through it. It's so poetic. So I've wanted to purchase this bar and bring it into a beautiful space for many years. And last Thursday, everything felt right. And I walked over and I got a handshake agreement and the gentleman already had an accepted offer, but he put a contingency on it. So when I went over and I made him an offer, he wiped out the other offer. We had a handshake. And so now I'm ready to pitch for investors. I have a group I'm going to be pitching to, and it's a magnificent, expansive project. Everything's falling into place. So what I would like from you, send up the good energy for ease in me creating this storyboard and this 5-minute pitch, and being in the right place at the right time to connect with the right few investors that are going to love this project and have money flow through me to bless it.
Oh wow, this is so awesome. Oh, so much when you were talking, it was like, oh, one of my, it was like, okay, I haven't been to Wisconsin since the 80s where my kids were born. Time to reconnect with you, the Dells, the beautiful, beautiful state of where you live, state of Wisconsin, state of here.
Being.
So here we go. We're going to put energy all over, up from here, up to Wisconsin, up north.
In addition, I'm looking, I'm starting to gather coaches who want to collaborate on a retreats with me. So
Oh, that's,
as
yeah.
you visit, you may find yourself just wanting to set up a really fun retreat between the two of us and invite our people.
Amen. And kayak coaching adventures is right
Kayaking,
there.
paddleboarding, eagles, beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, here comes the energy. Wow. Thank you so much. What an impact. What an amazing impact and courageous story and
It's not for the faint of heart, but it's so satisfying. You've got
courage.
to. You've got to. You don't really have a choice. If you say no to what's coming, you stop that flow. And to me, there's no, I think much more about anything I'm not going to say yes to than yes. Because yes continues to create flow. If you're going to say no, really give that some serious thought.
Yes. Okay. Yes. 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 We're flowing out.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate this time to share and be in alignment with you and your community.
Amen.